Welcome back to another great Recruiting Essentials episode here at Prep Baseball. I am your host, Shooter Hunt, joined by an old-time friend of mine, Jake Valentine, who's now at the University of Michigan. Jake, when we first met, though, you were at the University of Portland. You've been at Wazoo, Washington State. But I just want to, in public here, thank you for being a friend. When I moved out to Portland, didn't know anybody, and you were like, I'm a baseball guy, you're a baseball guy. You took me under your wing. So I appreciate you doing that and for coming on today.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. I remember first time seeing you out scouting. I think it was at Ron Tonkin Field.
Oh, yeah.
Sitting back there, getting the whole prep baseball thing rolling. So you've been a grinder from the very beginning, and it's fun to see where you're at now.
You're not supposed to tell lies as a recruiting coordinator there, but you're already telling a couple to me. But it has been a long time. You did a great job. University of Portland, small school, helped build it up. I remember before the stadium was built there, which is a really nice place. If anybody gets a chance to go out, Portland Pilots, gorgeous new stadium. It's like comfortable, quaint. I actually saw Noble Meyer there a couple years ago get his first start. Really great place to watch a game. Laid a great foundation as recruiting coordinator there, getting kids onto campus. Coach Loomis doing a good job there right now. You go from the University of Portland to Washington State at the time in the Pac-12. Now you've moved over to the University of Michigan there in Ann Arbor. Tell me about each of those stops, like what you've learned from just coming up as a young, up-and-coming recruiting coordinator, ready to grind. What has each spot taught you?
I think, just like anything, you learn the good and the bad from everywhere you've been, from experiences. I was lucky enough to be surrounded with really good head coaches at all three stops. So being able to, milk the knowledge from them. And then I think any good recruiter knows that you just find out what that niche is at that given program. You just try to wear it out. Portland was an awesome growing experience because when Coach Loomis and I got there, I think they were ranked like 298th out of 304 or whatever it was in the country, and now they're competing for conference championships every year, and
they're scaring big dogs every year.
They do a great job. Coach Loomis is one of the most underrated head coaches in the country, in my opinion. I think he does an incredible job. Lets his coaches coach. I think that's one of the things that he does a really good job of. Sets roles, and so at University of Portland, it was a high academic kid that I was trying to, if I'm being honest, trying to find those fringe Pac-12 guys. That's kind of where I made my money, was that tweener Pac-12 guy. Try to get him to move over to Portland, and we had a lot of success. I think we ended up having 3 All-Americans. Bunch of guys drafted.
And what you did was outwork a lot of guys. What were you looking for? And you talked about those fringe pack, whatever it may have been. What was it that you were identifying when you went to a game, whether it was a hitter or a pitcher? What did you want to see in those guys that now obviously you're bringing to Ann Arbor there with Michigan?
Yeah, I think the overall physicality and the tool set is obviously the first thing that pops off the page that we're looking for. Getting to know my pitching coach, and then getting to know what I work with really well, and trying to wear out those areas. Like Coach Lambert, who's now at University of Washington, really good job, especially like calling pitches in game. He's one of the best I've been around. And so
which is difficult to do. It's a difficult trait. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah, and I knew like a certain body type that worked well with him. A certain type of repertoire from what they needed to have coming in. And then, on the offensive side, a little bit longer levered, more physical guys, fits my style.
Well, tell me, why is that? Because you're not super tall, but like,
I'm like short.
Is that something that you're like, I'm envious of that, I want more of this?
I'm not saying we didn't, we had Holcroft there too, that probably is the exact same size as me. And I think he led the WCC in hitting all 8 years that he was there or whatever. But for whatever reason, I just know from self-evaluation that the longer levered, preferably left-handed, obviously with some twitch, but like, I know that sounds like a perfect world, but that's what I worked well with. And, the Sam Browns of the world, the Chad Stevens of the world, Guys like that could have some natural leverage and try to increase their skills from there and develop. So, because
Now,
that's what Portland was, right? Was we had to develop.
yeah.
And it wasn't one of those things that was just a sales pitch. It was like, hey, we're going to bring guys in. They're going to start right away early, and we're going to develop them throughout. So,
Is that something you brought to Michigan now, where it's, hey, we have that developmental factor. We have, I mean, you got your jump man behind you there. It's a full on worldwide brand, Michigan, right? We're still going to develop, but we're also going to go out and get these good players. We're looking for, sounds like the physicality. I think of Big Ten baseball. It's like, hey, you get some big physical Midwest kids who maybe they just need a little bit of polishing, but you have a chance to have huge high upside. Is that still something that you're looking for?
yeah, I think it's definitely with today's day and age, with the new rules in place and the different opportunities. I think it's a little bit more of a mixture of ready-made or know exactly what you're
Mm-hmm.
getting, mixed in with those high-end talent that we think we can develop really well. I look, Coach Hunsinger, our pitching coach, some of the pitchers that have made huge strides this year. I think people will see the development side of that, especially. I think on the infield play, you'll see some guys. I think of Cole Caruso at third base.
Mm-hmm.
Was a portal guy a year and a half ago, but now is really developed into our one of our team captains. I look at Mitch Voigt, who's probably
Wisconsin
one of
kid.
the best pure athletes on the field, and maybe he was a little bit raw coming out of high school out of Wisconsin, but now the development has worked and the polishness has worked, and I look at him to have a massive year and really open up some eyes.
It's funny you talk about Wisconsin. I feel like years ago we were talking about, hey, Wisconsin, it's like a hidden gem. And now when you're heading to Michigan, I'm like, hey, get ready for Wisconsin. It's not really a hidden gem. And even the state of Michigan protecting those state lines with just how talented the in-state guys are, which I'm still finding more guys in this year's draft class that are like popping up nonstop. Have you really had to immerse yourself into like, hey, we have a ton of state pride and we have a lot of really good talent here?
Yeah, I think that's one of the main things trying to hammer down now with the new staff is like, ultimately trying to build a wall around the state for the top end talent, and create the relationships with the local talent and get in there early, create the relationships through camps, stuff like that, and try to hold on to them. We've lucky the next two classes we've done a good job with the in-state high end, especially on the arm side.
Oh, a really good job. Now talk. You brought up kind of portal stuff, and it's not even like a behind closed doors situation. Like everybody's looking at the portal, get older. And you guys are honestly, I would say, a pretty good landing spot, especially for like a grad transfer, right? I'm going from this good school to like Michigan. I'm going to be in the Big Ten. It's a great degree. You could sell so many good things. How are you balancing the portal transfers with also, hey, we're bringing in some really good freshmen to help them develop? What is the talks internally for you guys with Coach Tracy Smith, who's been all over, or Indiana? He's been the Big Ten before, ASU, huge talent. How are you guys balancing that internally?
Yeah, I think now seeing what we've created with the product on the field this year, I think we've realized that blending the portal with the high-end high school talent is the move at Michigan. Obviously, Michigan's never going to be Portal U. The academics are too stringent. The transfer rules are different than others, both with deadlines, GPAs, all that kind of stuff. So we're never going to be wearing it out from a portal, but we also are going to use it to our advantage. With this being a big turnover year with the previous staff that's now at Clemson and Coach Smith taking over, like this was a rather large class, and it was a really good blend of really high-end high school guys, and then a couple JUCO guys, like the California JUCO Player of the Year, like high-end, and then also blending it with 10 portal guys as well, with the majority of them being, like you stated earlier, grad transfers.
Well, and talk about the academics situation. And I'm again talking here with Jake Valentine, University of Michigan recruiting coordinator. But the academics are so high. When you go to an event you're watching a high school kid. We're thinking 2027s right now. You're gathering notes, getting all these guys. How important is it to see, oh, this guy has attacked the classroom fairly aggressively. We know we have a good kid, what we're getting after. But like from the academic side, how much help is it when you have a kid who's putting in the work in school?
Oh, it's massive, because just like you were talking about, like how much it helps. The other part is, the guys that are those fringy guys that have maybe just made their way through class. Like, unfortunately, like they're getting crossed off my list, just because we don't have the ability to, manipulate anything to get them in, nor would we. But Michigan being, anywhere from the, 1 through 5 every year of the top public institution in the country, like they pride themselves on academics and they hold us to the same standard. So it's a really, really good and bad. Like, I enjoy it because you have a bunch of high achievers, but it allows you to have a rifle focus when you're recruiting as opposed to a shotgun approach. So you can really lock in on some guys.
I love it. Got to be a Michigan man on the field, off the field, everywhere, every makeup of earth of life. Let's talk a little bit about data. And you guys have done a great job with it historically, Coach Smith. Moving on now, obviously, tons of intelligent guys. Do you guys have a data team?
Yeah. So we have a director of analytics.
Okay.
And then he also manages all the managers underneath him, as well as a couple that are only on the analytics side. So we use it to our advantage, especially on the recruiting side too. I lean on him too from a portal standpoint. There's a certain type of hitter that I like, and he knows the data that I'm looking for, and so it helps create a little bit of a program that we can go after.
And you don't have to be coy about that because every school is doing that. And the guys I've talked to, the data analytics, you kind of, hey, this is what we like, this is what we can identify, but more importantly, this is what we can help develop. This is a guy that succeeds in our philosophy, and I think it's huge to have that analytics guy. I also think over to like our future games, right? There's so much going on. Michigan, you're recruiting from Alaska to New Jersey, like all over the country.
Oh yeah, global brand.
And you have to be on all those fields, but to have somebody in data analytics where at the end of the day at our future games, they could say, did you see this? No, I'll go back tomorrow, where you guys are constantly talking. Is that something that you utilize where, hey, we're glad that the blast motion metrics are up on the website. Oh, wow, the Vault metrics are up on the TrackMan stuff. Hey, we have a guy who's in a command center who is covering my 9. If I miss something, he's got my back.
Oh, it's great. Like, it's huge. Even before, at a mid-major, before I had the funding to allow that type of stuff, like Coach Lambert and myself used that to our advantage at Portland. There's a certain profile that we were looking for, especially on the pitching side for him. There's certain metrics that were not necessarily non-negotiables, but we're looking for certain profiles that worked really well with him. And I think that's kind of the piece on the pitching side that is really helpful for me on the recruiting side, especially at an event like Futures Games, where it's kind of a beast to cover just because the amount of distances I have to look. It really helps because there's a couple pieces that I learned way back in the day from Nate Yeske that I try to just copy and paste from what he does. So.
Nothing wrong with that. And now, has it become, with the new rules coming, 34-man rosters, those looks where, and you talk about the shotgun style where it used to be like, hey, we can go after all these guys. Have you had to narrow your focus in the recruiting landscape, especially at Michigan now? And what does that narrowed focus look like?
Yeah, I think you can look at it in two different realms. Like, you can look at it from like, man, that really cuts off a lot of the guys that you could potentially go after, where I think it makes it a little bit easier because I can really, really dive into a smaller portion of guys and get a better evaluation, as opposed to, looking at 30 guys on a field in a 6-hour period. My focus will be on 9. And I can get a lot better evaluation process and understand exactly if they fit or not.
And how important. So you talk about like you're narrowing your focus, those 9. I want to get a better look at those. And it's become very much a theme on this show. And anybody who's listened to each of the recruiting coordinators and head coaches that we've had on here, it is not an infinite amount of time for you guys to go out and recruit. No. You have to hit the ground running. And to get those guys, and right now 2027s, I'm sure you guys have had some camps. How are you gathering names, and what's helping you to hit the ground running next summer with recruiting leading up to that August 1st day?
Well, I think recruiting at the end of the day, it has changed immensely. But one thing that hasn't changed at all is relationships. And so leaning even heavier on the relationships that you have with people that you trust, and to get eyes on maybe places that you can't go see. But the camps have been huge, trying to make sure the high end talent, especially in state, get on campus so we can build a relationship and get to know them as a person. Because I think that's the secret sauce in recruiting, right? Like,
Yeah.
all of us can look at the field and be like, that guy's the best player, that guy's the best player. But the hard part is like, okay, yeah, he's the best player, but what kind of personality does he bring every single day? Does it mesh with our staff? Like, learning the people that are in your office and recruiting off of that, I think is the thing that we really have to do with the 27. So that's why leaning into your relationships and trying to get a good read on them. And I know selfishly the PBR guys have been a huge help for me, especially in the Midwest as a West Coast guy.
As soon as you came on, I called our Midwest guys and said, "You help out Jake Valentine. He's an OG for me."
Well, I appreciate that. They've been nothing but helpful. And yeah, I think it just treating people the right way and giving them the same amount of openness that I would hope from them. And kind of you scratch my back, I scratch yours type of thing, and help each other out.
Yeah, and even along those lines, you talk about our scouting directors, our boots on the ground. They all do such a great job. And when I talk to families and parents about, especially our winter events, right, the preseason, 2027, 28, you guys are collecting your names right now. You want to get that profile ready, get the data out there. So Jake Valentine, your data analytics squad, they're combing every single event we probably have in the preseason. Like, we got to go see this guy. I'm sure he comes up and inundates you with like, you got to go check this out. And you're like, dude, chill out for one second. I got like 10 things to do. Yeah. But not just going to the event for that reason, but also like to be seen by the scouting director. You're going to call him afterwards, right? Data analytics hit this. You're calling scouting director. Hey, Adam Goodwin, what's going on? How is this guy this? Okay, cool. Is that something that you're perpetually doing on the staff to trying to get as many names and as much information as you can?
Absolutely. I think the more touch points around certain prospects you can, the better it's going to be. And, because both ways, right? Like, there might be, like, Adam might be, hey, this is a no-brainer. And then, talking to another guy where he was at another event that saw him, he'd be like, you know what I mean? So then it just,
just gathering all the intel to put it together. I mean, it's something that I do. Like, I want to find out about this ultimately. And again, another thing we've talked a lot about is having that profile, that event kind of gets your foot in the door. This is your resume. This is where Jake Valentine's going to come across his desk. Oh, wow, this is a good job candidate. A guy who could potentially be in our program. I need to know on June 7th at the NPI, where do I need to be? What field? Oh, I need to see this guy. Right. Because, hey, if you don't see him on that day, those are 4 at-bats that never happened at University of Michigan. But you want to have multiple so that you can make a decision.
And just the way it is with a national brand, right? Like, I would love to be able to see a kid 3-4 times before I make the decision. But the honest truth is I'm going to be using past data, relationships and everything as my, conduit to go see him. And then when I go see him, it might be that only time that I get to see him, and I got to figure out if I'm going to make, if the profile actually fits. And then the conversations, the relationship, like the personality, like that type of stuff comes next. But yeah, from just a viewing standpoint, like it might only happen once or twice.
It's difficult, dude, just to go coast to coast and to have to know, like, hey, I got to lean on this person. He did this. I love at the future games when a kid, like, luck is when opportunity meets preparation. You have that moment in those 4 days, and to see a kid like step up and have the success and go through and have those good moments are always great to me. But the opposite, not having a huge week there can still be just as beneficial, right? You're still trying to grab a guy like that,
Oh yeah. Well, I think the other part too is like if what you're looking for matches and they fail a little bit, it's not always a bad thing because you get
No.
to see how they react. You get to see how they carry themselves. You get to see, was he able to flush and get to the next at bat? Like all the things, because it's all the different types of evaluations that we're trying to jumble into one because the new rules in place, right? It's harder and harder for a high school player to make it to, a high end conference. So we got to do even more homework.
Well, let's talk a little bit about it's like for 2027, right? He's going to go through the process. He's got his preseason events right now, trying to get on the board. He'll go into the spring. You'll try to make it out to games, right? Off day Monday, you're going to peek over to Lake or Brother Bryce, whatever it may be, to a big matchup. Then the summer hits. You go through, you're following. August 1, when you're finally able to talk to a kid, what type of conversation do you want to have, and what should those kids be talking about? What do you want to see out of this kid, personality wise?
Well, I think it's funny. There was a guy that sent me a email last night. He's a mental skills coach, and he has a family friend that's going to an event. And he's just like, "Hey, what do you look for from like a makeup standpoint? I know all the measurables from the playing standpoint, but what do you look?" And I was like, honestly, I think you have to judge yourself off of who the recruiting coordinator is because they're going to look at completely different things. My big thing is just the genuineness. Like, I want somebody to be as genuine of who they are as possible. Whether that's like, if a guy is kind of an a-hole, I want him to be an a-hole, and it's okay. Like, that doesn't immediately turn me off. It's just, don't give me the coach speak. Don't give me the fakeness. And I think every recruiting coordinator would say the same thing, is like, don't waste our time.
Yeah.
Like, if there's genuine interest, like, have the conversation. If there's not, be man enough to answer the call and then tell them that there's not. But I think just being genuine and being honest and being present with the conversation, which is hard for some of those kids because some of them are getting 40, 50 calls on August 1st. So
yeah, it definitely has to be hard. I can think back to many years ago when I was going through it and trying. Even back then, it was more being in Jersey, I said yeah a lot. I remember being like, "Hey, you got to say yes and yes, sir," for the first time ever. Like, who am I? But like the realness of being a prospective recruit, right? This is a person. If ultimately they commit to the University of Michigan, right? Hey, this is somebody who, in your formative years, be going from a kid into a man. You're going to be around this guy, like, get to know this coach. Hey, who are you? Like, real conversations. That's the way I look at it. And I think that's been a change in the recruiting world. Like, we want to know. Like,
yeah,
we'll know pretty quick.
Unfortunately, like, I hate saying this, but I'm going to spend more time with that kid than I do my own kids. So, like, I want to make sure that the relationship can blossom. Like, if there's certain things that both sides aren't really in on, it's better to cut ties early on as opposed to force the square peg into a round hole.
Yeah, it's the amount of times I've heard, like, yeah, it's a weird kid. Like a phone call, or it's just off-putting, like, hey, it just didn't fit. That wasn't the right spot. But in the long run, you may be better off knowing that now versus he comes to campus, doesn't fit in. This is a bad. Now he's going to JUCO. Now he's going here. Now he's kind of flushed
it's not
away
good for anybody. So yeah, just be genuine, because unfortunately, good, bad, or indifferent, I'm gonna do the same thing to them. So
what about any great questions that you've gotten from prospective recruits, or things that you would love to be asked on the phone?
Yeah, I think one that took me back on August 1st was like, and it actually spurred me to do it on the other side. Was like, I think 30 seconds in the conversation, I was asked, like, do I have kids? What are their names? Like, stuff like that. And I was like, whoa, okay. Like, we're gonna dive in there. And I loved
your
it.
wife. How did this?
Yeah, like, but I don't know. I think just the ability to have a conversation and not be afraid to ask questions that maybe other people haven't asked, because I know those type of questions are in a kid's head. Like, just don't be afraid to ask them.
Yeah. And even like the random, like, I would think, like, how many kids, because this would be one of my first questions, right? The University of Michigan just called me August 1, 7 a.m. Coach, how much gear do we get? That would literally be my first question.
Yeah. As much as you earn.
Oh, okay. I like that.
Yeah.
success or earned, not given. That okay, especially with that jump man, because I'm coming in like, coach, do I get those threes? What am I getting here?
Yeah, and I mean, and it's great. Like first thing Skip did one of my assignments as associate head and recruiting coordinator. But the first thing he added when I got here was I'm in charge of ordering all the gear now. So yeah.
Oh, look at you. That might be the most important thing that you have.
Well, that's why we got the elephant print up.
See, you came from Portland. He knew you had your Beaverton roots. You were coming right from the Jumpman building. It is fascinating though, and like I'm honing in on these calls because they're what you guys do, right? The text message is, and you know what? Actually, talk about that a little bit. We talked about the phone calls, but even in texting, is it important to like have MLA formatting in your text message, or can you just be normal?
Just be normal. Like I'd much rather just get I think it's more the immediate text back or the time within the text that I'm looking at more than anything, as opposed to the structure of the text. Like if you leave me on red for a couple days, like, all right, bro. Like
I get or you just say K. You just respond K.
Yeah, don't K bomb us.
Oh
yeah.
Just thumbs up. He's just double bubbling you.
Yeah.
It is just a different world recruiting right now with I was, especially last year, August 1, hey, you're going to do it like midnight. It's more like, hey, we got text messages. We're doing this. Oh, we're having these good conversations. To the recruits out there, like if you're getting hit up by Jake Valentine in Michigan, they have interest in you. They're really excited about what direction this could go in. And behind the scenes, like they're hoping that you respond. Like they want to build this relationship with you. And if they're not, and I don't want to speak for you here, but like not everybody's getting an offer on August 1. No. Some guy, hey, we're trying to build this relationship. There's only 34 spots now. We're trying not to make a mistake on our end, but also for you. We don't want it to be a bad fit. Is that something you take into consideration now?
Absolutely. I think, I'm lucky because I work for the GOAT, Tracy, Skip, like he's the best. So he's not worried about the rush or the, just trying to be like we're trying to be right. Mm-hmm. And that's the most important piece. So like if it takes a little bit of time, or if we don't throw any offers out on August 1st until we get them on campus, like I think it's a mixed bag, but yeah, every single recruiting story is individual to that kid. And so there's Chad Stevens, super early and aggressive on the recruiting side with him. Ends up, he's probably gonna be in the big leagues with the Angels this year. Sam Brown, super late in the process, much more casual of a recruiting. He's probably going to be in the big leagues here in about a year or two. Like completely different timelines for both of them. But luckily they both came. So.
Yeah, and I know trying to keep up with the Joneses, trying not to compare. Like everybody's developmental curve is different, but the recruiting side of things is also the same way. Like you're going to get a phone call here. Things move differently. It is, and I'll keep harping on, like, especially as we move to this 34-man roster where coaches like, hey, each spot counts for so much more. Those mistakes, it's not a you thing. It's it's the sport, right? Yeah. Like we don't want to have all these cuts in the fall. We don't want to have like the end of the year, hey, this kid's transferring here. Ideally, especially at Michigan, you talked about like I'm sure a fair amount of the kids coming to school like this is the number one public institution in the country. This is a worldwide brand. I can get a job anywhere if baseball doesn't work out. I want this to be my home for 4 years. So when I'm going through the process, I want to make sure this is where I want to be.
Absolutely. Like I think it's almost harder at an institution like this because even if you were to take away baseball, they're still going to end up with that block M next to their name. And like, so you don't want to do that to that kid. Like, if they're getting into the raw school business or whatever, and you missed and it's your fault and it's not a good fit, like you don't want to take that from them. So there, yeah, I think anybody that's a parent and has that feel, like if you're okay with those type of things happening, you probably should check your pulse. And I think, again, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but being able to work for somebody like Skip, where, we want to be a transformational coaching staff, not a transactional coaching staff. And I think that's the biggest thing that we try to be in the recruiting process is different. Like it's a real relationship. It's a meaningful. So like what you're talking about, using all the pieces to make the best fit for both sides. That's the name of the game.
That's incredible. Now, let me ask you before we move into a couple fun questions. Any advice for parents, right? Like this 2027's, dad's pacing the sidelines, hyperventilating every time the kid goes out. He gives up 2 home runs. What are the conversations with the parents? What kind of questions do you expect from them? Anything that's off that you don't want them to ask, or anything that you would love for parents to ask to be more insightful?
I mean, honestly, like open book. So I'd rather the decision be really easy both ways. Like, man, I can't see myself there, or man, I love it here. But that only comes from knowledge and asking the tough questions. And I think anybody that shies away from the tough questions, like that should be kind of a telling sign for you in the recruiting process. Like ask. If it comes in your head, ask. Like that's what we do.
I think the point that you've really hammered home here, and hopefully all parents, recruits, anybody listening right now, is to be yourself. Be real, because in the end, it is going to come into the open. So make sure it happens now. I do want to have a little bit of fun with you, because we were talking before the show, but this is the shop.prepbaseball.com. We got a great store right now. I am rocking this quarter zip. I'm going to grab my hats from behind. Oh, which one? Which one do you like better?
Well, I'm a big rope guy, so I like both of them, but I'm going with the black.
You're going with the black, the script prep baseball?
Yeah.
Okay. We might have to send you that hat over. I like the new logo one. Depends how hot it is if I want to show off my slip.
And it depends what shoes you're rocking.
Yeah, look at you. Always coming back to the jump, man. Nice stuff. So shop.prepbaseball.com. Check it out. We'll get Jake Valentine hooked up. Maybe we'll do a gear swap in the future.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm down.
I've asked this. I'm coming to Ann Arbor. What coffee shop am I going to? And what restaurant are you sending me to? So I leave the state saying like that is, or I leave town saying like, I'm coming back here.
So I know, because I know where you live. I know you're a foodie, whether you want to be or not, because you're in Portland, where I also, cut my chops on being a food connoisseur. So hopefully we have a similar thought.
Don't mess this
From
up.
a coffee shop standpoint, I'm not going to send you to some, Starbucks or anything like that.
Okay.
You got to check out the Shinola Basement.
Shinola Basement.
Yeah, and I'll let you do your homework on that one.
Okay, I feel like you're probably a vanilla latte guy, so I'll make sure that.
If I'm going to a coffee shop, I need to get something like that. But every day it's I got 2 kids, so it's 2 cups of black coffee on the go.
Oh, look at you! I've heard a couple other guys going quad shot over ice, and they're just like cheating the system. What about?
I just go. I enjoy having my nice black coffee.
I've heard great things Ann Arbor food wise. So what do we work? Where are you sending me to?
All right, if you're getting a steak,
okay,
you're going to the Chop House.
The Chop House. Is that where? I mean, where's Coach Harbaugh going? Where would he have been?
He probably would have been at the Chop House, or he's probably over at the local breakfast joint, Benny's.
Okay.
Which is kind of like a just family diner. Get 2 eggs over medium with some hash browns, some bacon.
Like American breakfast right there. There's a Midwest American breakfast. Gotta love it.
Yeah, get some grinds in the coffee so you know exactly what you're drinking. Like, it's good.
Okay, Chop House. Any steak specifically that you would have me get?
The filet is really good.
Okay.
The filet is incredible. And then if you're looking to branch out, and the only reason I bring this one up is because I just went there on a date night with my wife.
Okay.
It's so it's called Adventura.
Okay.
And it's Spanish tapas. So it's like a sharing. Ooh. Yeah.
Very nice. Well, that is awesome stuff. I have it all circled. Might even go to a preseason all-state event there in Michigan just to stop by. I will send you the bill from each of those spots, so make sure you're ready for
Don't send me the Chop House one, please.
Well, this has been awesome. Jake Valentine, University of Michigan recruiting coordinator, rocking his J's. He's got the elephant print in the background. Jake, I'm looking forward to seeing you out on the road this summer. Good luck this spring. Tell Coach Smith getting after it there. And until we meet this summer, I will wait until we see each other at the ballpark.
All right, Shooter, I appreciate you, man. You're the best. So been a long time. Excited I could hop on here with you. You're a good one. You do it for the right reason. So I appreciate it.
I appreciate that, Jake. We'll see you guys.